before I even jump in. That's kind of crazy. All right, let me refresh my laptop here. I'm going to go live, answer some questions, and probably go for about an hour today. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to pull it up on my laptop so I can see the chat. Oh, I better turn off the volume. Otherwise, there'll be an echo. All right. Switch over to live chat. Cool. First, you are first. Congratulations, Daniel. It's kind of hard to be first on these live streams. It's kind of crazy. Hey, what is up, Dylan? Christina, what is going on? Yes, live again. I'm going to go for another hour today. I brought Bobby out, but it's kind of interesting. Bobby got really super gray in his shed, and he's completely cleared up. I'm thinking Bobby might actually shed on this live stream. It's kind of crazy. He's like right on the verge of shedding his skin. What is going on? Shelly, Ron, Johnny. Awesome. Getting some people in. 39 people already. Awesome. Go 12 hours. I'm probably just going to go 1 hour today. As a matter of fact, after I finish this live stream, I'm going to have to record another video for tomorrow. So I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends, doing live streams and doing daily videos, which is kind of crazy. All right. What is up? All right. Nico, would you ever invest in a cow retic? As a matter of fact, I did see cow retics are kind of interesting. The only thing is they get a little bit bigger than I would prefer. If they could actually make a cow retic in a dwarf form, I would probably definitely get a cow reticulated python. But I really don't want anything that gets more than, like 100 pounds. I think it would definitely get bigger than Lucy is, about 100 pounds. Shout out from Kansas City. What is up? All right, just bought a bamboo. Named him Desert Storm. Awesome, good name. Yeah, I always tell you, go 12 hours. Not going 12 hours this time. Maybe another time I'll do another 12 hours. Let me tell you, after about the 8th hour, you just start dropping really fast. It's kind of crazy. What pairing am I doing this year? I'm actually pairing up 23 females this year, so quite a few combinations with a whole bunch of different genes. Can't have retics here. That is a bummer. From over the road. What's up, Alan? All right. My husband and I have learned so much from you. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. Steve B. Exotics. How are things? Things are going good. Yes. Lucy is one of my favorites too. She's a really big snake. All right. What's the best combo to make the 8-ball? So the 8-ball is actually the combination of the black pastel and the cinnamon. And it's kind of limited because it's a really super dark combination. You could probably do like an 8-ball pied, which would be kind of interesting. Or you could do, I've actually seen where people take an 8-ball and add albino to make the cue ball, which is it's almost an all-white snake, but it has little specks of yellow all over the top, which is a pretty awesome 8-ball combination. Should I turn up the heat to try to get rid of an RI? For respiratory infections, I'd probably do as dark or as dry as you can to really dry out the environment to kind of get rid of that respiratory infection. I'm not sure about the heating it up. I would definitely probably see a veterinarian if you can. A lot of times they can give them shots to clear up a respiratory infection. Yes, Lucy grew really fast. It was super fast. I couldn't believe how fast she actually grew. Wow, we got a lot of questions flying in. Hey, my animal house, what is going on? All right. Hey, I got your stickers, by the way, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to keep up with all these questions. That's a lot of questions. All right, let's see. Lucy seems more intelligent than a ball python. It's kind of interesting. I think reticulated pythons are pretty keen, although I think a lot of that may be an aggressive feeding response. They're always looking for something to eat all the time, where a ball python, it doesn't really care about food most of the time. Have any, I don't think I've had any ovulations in my collection. I haven't really been looking to see if any of my females have ovulated. I think it's a little bit too soon. Maybe in a few weeks I'll get some ovulations. Let's see. If I purchase a snake from another breeder, do I quarantine them and how long? Yes, I actually do quarantine them. 2 floors straight above me, up on the 3rd floor, I have a quarantine area where I'll quarantine ball pythons, and I'll usually keep them there for at least a month or so, just to make sure that they don't have mites or anything like that. And then I'll kind of keep an eye on other things like respiratory infections. So pretty much about a month on my quarantine as far as what I do. What is up, Kevin Wilson? All right, let's see. If you put an albino with a normal het albino, will you get all albino pied? So if you put an albino with a normal het albino pied, what you'd actually get is you would get 50% albinos, 50% het albinos, and all of them will be 100% het pied. You wouldn't see any visual pieds from that combination. Would you recommend removing hides when breeding and ovulation? So yeah, I would definitely remove the hides during breeding. I don't really like hides because a lot of times in a hide, especially if you have them in like a glass aquarium, sometimes it's actually hard to feed your snakes because they're always hiding in the hide. I would imagine it'd be kind of hard to breed them too. So I'd probably pull out the hides when you're pairing up your males and your females, definitely. Hello from France. Wow, that is awesome. Let's see. Let's see. Is there any morphs of retics that tend to have better temperaments than others? So I don't really know reticulated pythons that well. I'm pretty much a ball python guy. You might have to go to like a reticulated python channel. And I haven't really seen any in-depth channels that really go through a lot of the morphs of reticulated pythons that I've actually seen where you can actually learn about the temperaments of some of the morphs. So it'd be kind of an interesting project to make a channel like that if you're really big into reticulated pythons. Let's see, how many days should I pair a male before giving him a break? So typically what I do is I pair a male for 3 days and then I'll give him a break, or I'll move him to another female and then pair for another 3 days. And then after 6 days, the males with 2 females, pretty much 6 days in a row, I'll definitely give that male a break for probably a week and a half to 2 weeks to feed them and then let them digest really well before I put them back in the cycle of going through the females. How can you tell an adult female candy from a lavender albino? That's a good question. As a matter of fact, I was kind of wondering that myself. The candies look really similar to the lavender albinos as adults. You pretty much have to keep track of it. And I'd say, you know, people who are either into one of those are probably keen on figuring out, you know, keeping track of the genetics really closely, because the candies are probably a lot more expensive than the lavender albinos just as a standalone gene. And it really depends what you mix in there. So they're really similar in appearance, the candies and the lavender albinos. Let's see. They're trying to ban just about everything here in Florida. What's your opinion on this topic? Yeah, it seems like they're always trying to put these bans in place, which is kind of crazy. If you actually go over to like USARK, you'll actually see there's a lot of things that get put on the table, and then a lot of people really fight hard against it. And most of them, I'd say most of them are dropped, thank goodness. Hey, we got a super chat from Solid Serpents. All right. The weird thing is it came up on my phone. I think there's like a delay here on my computer. All right, Solid Serpents, thanks for the educational vids. One thing, what an adult only feeds on live. She gets bit every time. Ooh. So are you saying if the snake gets bit from the rodent? Yeah, that could be a problem. if the snake actually gets bit from a rodent. It's a lot of times the snake can actually go off of food completely, especially if they're alive only, and then you feed them rodents, and then the rodent bites the snake and decides it doesn't like the rodents anymore. And sometimes your snake will completely go off of rodents. So what I would actually recommend is feeding live rodents that are a lot smaller, like probably half or a third of what you're feeding, to make sure that the snake can definitely win when it's actually going after the rat. Sometimes you have to keep an eye on that. Sometimes you have to feed like 2 or 3 times instead of just one big one to kind of overcome the problem. But yeah, when I feed live, I don't feed anything that's big enough to really pose a danger to my snakes. It's usually a much smaller rodent as far as that is. But yeah, that can be a problem. Hey man, what's going on, TriStar? All right, let's see. Best advice for beginning breeders. So, probably the best thing is watch all my videos. I have like over 1,000 videos here on YouTube. Pretty much everything that I can think of as far as ball pythons I put over here on YouTube. So study as much as you can. There's a lot to learn and a lot of challenges along the way. A lot of different morphs too. Sometimes it can be kind of challenging trying to pick out which morphs you're going to work with. All right, just starting, really wanted to know a male to female ratio. So typically the male to female ratio, I'd say you pretty much only need 1 male for up to 3 females. That's probably the average ratio. But it seems like after you get into it further and further, I would probably increase the number of males just so you can cycle your males through the kind of from one male to the other, so you're not always breeding the same male. So for example, if you had like a bamboo and you're like Bobby around my neck here, and you're breeding it to 3 females, you know, if you breed that year after year after year, you're always producing bamboos. Versus if you had like 2 other males kind of on standby, you could use those males and kind of rotate every year and switch up your breeding, so you don't have, you know, bamboos every single year. You can kind of mix it up. So I think you could, you know, almost have a 1-to-1 ratio and then just kind of sit on some of them and then cycle through your males. That's what I would actually do. How many females do I have and how many males? I actually have, well, this year I'm actually breeding 23 females. And I think it's almost 50 snakes. So I'd have to actually go back and count how many snakes that I have. Well, I might actually have 45 snakes now. It seems like it always changes. I actually held back a couple for future breeders, and then I sold a couple of my scaleless head normals. And I think I'm about at 45 snakes right now. Let's see. All right, Chris, love your vids. Picked up your first ball python, one with a blue-eyed leucistic. Awesome. So yeah, tomorrow I'm actually going to do a video on the complexities of breeding a blue-eyed leucistic, which can be pretty tricky. There's some challenges that you can run with if you can run into if you're just breeding blue-eyed leucistics, but it could be a pretty exciting project. Let's see. Given the climate today, do you believe the day of breeding and selling reptiles is coming to an end? I don't think the breeding and selling ball pythons would ever come to an end. Even if they pass laws, I don't know if they could pass a law to where they could completely ban ball pythons. I think people would pretty much go underground and still breed ball pythons. It's a pretty awesome animal. And a lot of times I've actually seen a lot of these, you know, the bills come where they try to ban every single pet in all the pet stores and everything. And the problem is if you shut down the entire pet industry, there's so much tax revenue that the government gets from all the pet industry that they, you know, if they actually look at the numbers, they may be kind of hurting themselves banning the whole reptile and the pet industry. I don't think it'll ever come to an end. Yeah, nobody can enforce the laws. Yeah. All right, let's see. My male and female have locked 4 times. She's slamming food, just wondering when she will go off. Yeah, so I just keep feeding your female, and hopefully she will at some point. I've actually seen some here in my collection. They seem like they're going on food for a lot longer than they normally do, and they are developing follicles. So at a certain point, they'll go off of food, and then the eggs should come maybe a month or 2 after they stop feeding, as far as what I've seen. We're luckier than South Africa. Yeah. All right. I'm getting a yellow belly lemon blast female, 66% het for Candino. Any ideas what I could pair with? So yeah, so it's a 66% chance it either carries one copy of the albino or one copy of the candy, which would be pretty interesting. What I would actually do is I'd probably get something that's het for candy and breed it to that and see if you can make some visual candies, which are pretty expensive if you can actually do that. And if you don't get the candies, you would get the candinos if it's het for albino. How much does it cost to take care of a snake? Good question. It depends on the size of the snake and how often it actually eats. So like Bobby here, he eats maybe once or twice a month. So it's not very expensive to feed Bobby. Hey, we got another super chat. All right. Thank you, Christina. You have helped me so much understand the genes. That's my goal. All right. All right, Bobby. Bobby's choking me out. All right. So yeah, so it can go all the way from, if you have a really cheap snake, probably the cheapest snake would be something really small, like maybe like a really small king snake, like an Arizona mountain king snake could probably be one of your cheapest snakes because you could feed it like mouse hoppers its whole life. It's a really small snake. On the flip side, if you actually look at really big reticulated pythons, they can be pretty expensive. So Lucy, technically, she's ready for rabbits. And if I buy rabbits, it's anywhere from like $15 to $20 a rabbit to buy a frozen rabbit online. And then the reticulated python can actually eat one or two of those rabbits every month. So you're looking at, like $30 a month just for the rabbits, which is kind of crazy. Reticulated pythons can be a lot more expensive to keep and maintain than most other snakes. How much does it cost to take care of a ball python? Well, it really depends on where you get your rats and how often you change your bedding. It's not really that expensive. So for Bobby here, well, I raise my own rats, so I'm not really sure of the prices on the rats, but he eats like maybe a medium rat twice a month. If you look up the prices, and then maybe a block of bedding, not even a block of bedding. So probably I'd say less than, probably about $10 or $15 a month to take care of a snake like Bobby. Not much at all. Will you ever own venomous? Probably not. Probably never. Take my life into my hands just to have any type of a snake. I probably won't own a venomous. One of the things I thought about doing though is doing some herping here in Colorado. Maybe going down to the prairies and checking out some rattlesnakes. Maybe get a snake hook and kind of move them around a little bit. Watch their tails shake and maybe get some videos. Doing some herping here in Colorado, but I probably wouldn't take one home to actually put in any kind of enclosure. To have a venomous here in my house, no, I probably wouldn't do it. I know if you actually have venomous on a YouTube channel, like your YouTube channel can do pretty good. I think everyone's waiting for you to get bit. That's what they're all waiting for on the YouTube channels with the venomous. It's kind of crazy. Electricity too, yeah. So you do have a little bit of electricity. As far as taking care of a ball python. So it's not a whole lot. Depends on the ambient temperature of your house. So you just have like a 90-degree hotspot. It's not really that expensive to take care of a ball python. Why not feed a rat more often rather than a rabbit? So I actually feed Lucy my retired rats, believe it or not. She can actually, as a matter of fact, that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of going through my whole rat thing, pretty much cleaning house right now, replacing all my rats because a lot of them are really old, and she can eat within a month. She'll probably eat anywhere from 10 to 15 jumbo rats, the biggest rats that I can actually get, which equals probably like 2 or 3 rabbits, maybe 4 rabbits, which is kind of crazy. So she definitely can plow through some rats. And I found, especially with the reticulated pythons, it seems like if I'm feeding her rats over and over and over, and if I'm feeding like 5 or 6 or 7 rats, sometimes she'll get to the point where she'll slam her mouth into the side of the enclosure and kind of hurt her mouth, and sometimes it'll swell up a little bit. And I think that's another reason you should probably feed rabbits to reticulated pythons, because you can just have 1 or 2 feeding instances versus a whole bunch of small ones. I think it's easier on their face when they're going crazy and like kind of slamming into things. So if I actually had, you know, more of an access to rabbits, I'd definitely switch to rabbits, but I have so many free rats at this point. My best-selling ball python, well, that's pretty much the bamboo. I think it's because of Bob here. Everybody wants a bamboo. Everyone wants to be put on a waiting list for a bamboo, and I don't really do waiting lists. Pretty much other than that, I'd say if I go to a reptile show and I'm selling snakes at a reptile show, the first few snakes that always sell first before everything else is my normals. Everybody wants a really inexpensive ball python, which is pretty amazing. Hey, got another super chat from Boom Exotics. Thank you. What incubator do you recommend for first time breeder, one with the least issues? So I would probably recommend building your own incubator, like out of a little beverage cooler or something like that. You can actually just buy some heat tape and then hook the heat tape to a thermostat to really dial it in at 88 or 90 degrees. And if it's a really big incubator, like one of the 6-foot tall ones or something like that, you definitely want to put some kind of a fan in there for the air circulation. Oh, Bobby is choking me out. But that's pretty much the cheapest way to do an incubator. As a matter of fact, I actually bought my incubator on Craigslist. Just the beverage cooler. Some guy bought it brand new, and the compressor was bad on it. So it was like a brand new. It smelled really fresh. As a matter of fact, it still smells new because no one ever used it for any kind of food or anything like that, which is pretty awesome. How much money can you make breeding 2 ball pythons in a year? It depends on the genes and how much you invest in your ball python. So if you're to actually go after some of the really high-end stuff, like for example, if you bought a couple $10,000 ball pythons, like the monsoons, or like when the sunsets came out, I think the sunsets are coming down quite a bit. But if you actually bought some, you know, $10,000 snakes, and you bred those together and you get a whole clutch of, say you got like 8 or 9 snakes at $10,000 a piece, you can make an incredible amount of money. Versus if you're breeding normals and you produce a clutch of eggs and you're selling them for 50 bucks, you'll be lucky to actually break even. So a lot of times when people are saying, you know, how much can I make breeding ball pythons? It really depends on how much you invest initially, as far as what you'll get as a return on investment, or if you'll actually even make any money. So, and then sometimes you can lose a lot, like if you actually bought into the scaleless heads and they came down really super fast, and then you really can't recoup that money. Sometimes you can lose out. But I think a lot of times it's better to kind of diversify. Instead of buying a $10,000 snake, you can buy like a couple, you know, $2,000 snakes, or like a $1,000 snake, a couple, you know, few $100 snakes. And then if one of them drops, you're not stuck with that huge drop. You can kind of spread it out over a bunch of different snakes. But as far if you just had 2 snakes, yeah, it really depends on how much you invest at the beginning. Let's see. What size of rat do you prefer for a garden snake? So, yeah, so basically you really don't want a rat that's bigger than the thickest part of any kind of a snake. So you kind of have to look at the thickest part of the snake and kind of go by that as far as the size. Let's see. I have a male banana Mojave genetic stripe who I've been thinking of breeding. Any recommendations on breeding combinations? So it's a banana. Depends on if the banana is a male maker or a female maker, which is kind of interesting. Then you have Mojave and which is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, and genetic stripe, which is recessive. So that's kind of an interesting combo. So you can actually breed that to like GHI and make the Mojave GHIs. Or the genetic stripes. There's some stuff you can do with the genetic stripe, like the albino genetic stripes, pretty awesome. Or the banana, you could actually breed that into Enchi. One of my favorite combinations with banana is the banana, or with the Enchi, or the leopard bananas, or the banana Enchi leopard is pretty cool. You have a lot of really cool stuff you can do with that combination. Have I ever seen a pastel champagne calico? No, I haven't seen one like that in person. Let's see. Yeah, do most people that buy ball pythons from you, are they looking to breed, sell it themselves, or are they looking for it as a pet? It really depends, I'd say. A lot of people, I'd say most people probably buy my ball pythons to actually breed them. Some people keep them as a pet. As a matter of fact, I know one lady, she bought like 4 or 5 of my snakes. She has 23 ball pythons and they're all pets. She doesn't breed any of them. It's pretty wild. And then when she comes to the reptile store, she actually brings them all in this big, like a Tupperware tote all together. She throws all her ball pythons in there and brings them to the reptile show just to kind of show them off. So it really depends on what people are doing. I'd say if most people, they're buying like a blue-eyed leucistic, like the all-white snake, I'd say most of those probably are being sold as pets. And most of your normals are probably being sold as pets too, which is kind of interesting. Do you think the pandemic affected the market much? I think the pandemic actually increased the demand and the prices pretty much across the board, which is kind of crazy. It seems like ever since the pandemic started, all the prices have just been going through the roof, really skyrocketing. So I think a lot of people, you know, they're losing their jobs, they're looking for ways to make money, and people are, it seems like, you know, ball pythons, you know, a lot of people I think are looking at it as far as an alternative to, you know, a different way to make money, as well as, you know, keeping some really cool animals too. What would you pair to a fire spider? Good question. So fire spider. So probably what I would do with the fire spider is I would breed that to something like a pastel orange dream yellow belly, because you could actually get some, or you could do like the super pastel or super orange dream, something like that. Because if you actually mix the fire, the pastel, the orange dream, and the yellow belly, and then you add spider on top of it, you can get some crazy looking combinations. Punk rocker, sorry for missing last night. No problem. Yeah, so let's see where we at. We're at 26 minutes already, so I'm going to go for another 35 minutes. I'm just going to do an hour here on the live stream. 95 people watching. That's crazy. It's as a matter of fact, yesterday, the most we ever had on the live stream all at once yesterday was 118. We actually peaked out at 118, which is kind of crazy. All right, let's see. My favorite ball python morph, that would have to be the bamboo right here around my neck. Bobby is my favorite. He's kind of choking me out. He's kind of getting ready to shed here. He got all blue, deep in blue, and then he cleared up. He's completely clear and still hasn't shed, which is kind of crazy. I was thinking he was going to shed right around my neck right now, but that's kind of crazy. Do you think a sunset monsoon visual would be worth? How much do you think a sunset monsoon visual? Yeah, so yeah, the prices of snake, you can pretty much ask whatever you want for any snake. The problem is who is gonna buy it? And some of these big breeders might really be interested in spending a lot of money for a sunset monsoon and get into the project, you know, both projects at once in one snake. So yeah, maybe 30,000, I'd say, for something like that. If you actually hit a visual, anywhere probably from 30,000 to 50,000 or something like that, which would be kind of crazy. Yeah, but the hard part is if you actually bought a sunset and bred it to a monsoon, unless you're already working on the projects, it's going to take you a really long time to actually make that, like, you know, 6 years probably to actually make your first sunset monsoon. And by then the prices could significantly come down. So a lot of it is a race against time. So if you actually have het sunset, if you actually have the double hets and you're working on it and you could beat everyone to the market, that's when the prices will be really high on those. All right, let's see. We got a lot more questions. Wow. Let's see. Just realized we had Bobby on the camera. Yeah, he's the star. People get tired of listening to me talk. I have Bobby around my neck. They can watch Bobby. Yeah, Bobby is pretty awesome. It's funny. He's like kind of a coppery color now that he's kind of in the between the shed here, getting ready to shed. I saw a blue-eyed leucistic clown that you can see the clown marking under the black light. Nice. Imperial clown. That's pretty awesome. Hey, we got another super chat from Boom Exotics. My pal Andrew and I are going into business with the breeding. Any advice on partnership roles? I've pretty much always worked alone as far as doing any type of a partnership or anything like that, but you definitely can do it. I would say probably the biggest advantage is you can actually both buy snakes at the same time and speed things up, which would be definitely worth it if you could both invest in ball pythons. It'd almost be like, merging two or more collections together to have, you could definitely speed things up, which would be pretty awesome. Probably what I do is, if you both have snakes, I'd take a really good look at your collection. And there's a lot of things you can actually do with a partnership. You definitely have to, communicate, figure out what you both want to get into as far as some of the cool combinations and the return on investment and everything like that. That'd be pretty cool working with someone. I've always been pretty much a loner in my ball python business here. Let's see. Snowstorm required some movement for my ball python to a different location. She's fine, but went off food for a while. Yeah, that crazy storm. Yeah, the danger gene. I'm not too familiar with the danger gene. I might pull it up on Morphmarket here and take a look. I'm always looking for new genes. I don't know if it's over here on Morphmarket. Oh, see, no danger in the US Morphmarket, European. I pretty much just do everything off Morphmarket here. No danger. So I'm not familiar with that yet. Stranger. Oh, the stranger, not the stranger, the danger. Yeah, I actually did a morph review on the stranger. But hey, if you had a new gene, that'd be a cool name to name it, is the danger. Yeah. All right. Let's see. How often do females slug out after building follicles and ovulating? So I've never actually had one that slugged out here in my collection. Usually they lay slugs from not actually pairing them up enough. It seems like I've seen a lot of people that don't pair up their snakes enough, and a lot of times you'll actually get slugs. Usually from what I've actually seen is, well, usually when they ovulate, they're going to lay something. They'll either lay slugs or they'll lay good eggs, but they pretty much won't reabsorb at that point, so you're pretty safe there. Just bought a pewter pane. Awesome. Have you ever thought about breeding rabbits? Yeah, the problem is, I don't know if I could euthanize cute rabbits. It's like a whole different level, actually euthanizing rabbits. I think I'd rather buy frozen rabbits online for my reticulated pythons. And it's just more work, I'm breeding so many things now with the snakes and the chickens and the ducks and the cows and everything. I don't know if I want to take on another animal to take care of. Yeah, I don't think they really would be, worth it as far as that compared to actually just buying the frozen rabbits online. Is the stranger gene worth investing in? I would definitely invest in the stranger. It has some really good potential from what I've seen. All right, we're moving through these comments fast. Any advice on how many snakes should I purchase for a breeding project? Okay, so if you're just starting into ball pythons, keep in mind that every female that you buy, you're going to end up with anywhere from 6 to 10 hatchlings every single year if they breed. So it can turn into an incredible amount. My very first year, I ended up with like 100 hatchlings. And I was like buying snakes, and you get kind of obsessed over buying snakes. And then you have your first hatchling, and your 50 snakes turns into 150 snakes. And it can be like, all right, I'm done buying snakes. It can kind of, you kind of switch from buying into kind of figuring out which direction you're going to go into. But, you kind of have to look into the future as far as how many hatchlings you want to buy, as far as how many females that you want to buy. Let's see. More cow videos. Yeah, I like to do, the cow videos don't really do good on my snake channel, because the funny thing is with YouTube, they really like all my content to be focused around one topic, because the problem is if I put out a cow video, it'll suggest that cow video after ball python videos. And all the Ball Python people don't really want to watch the cow videos. So it pretty much tanks my whole channel when I do a cow video. Once in a while I'll do cows in the ends of my videos, but usually I don't really do like cow videos just by themselves. Although it's kind of interesting, I did a duck video. I did the peaking from hatchling to an adult in 45 days, and that thing is blowing up, a duck video. I've done a few duck videos. It seems like it really drives a lot of the views on my channel, the ducks and the cows, which is kind of crazy. In the long term, they do really well. Favorite dark gene, I'd say probably mahogany is one of my favorite genes. I really love how it can kind of give that coppery sheen to a lot of combinations and really darken a lot of the combos. With general temperature and humidity, do I keep my incubator? So for the incubator, you really should keep it between 88 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the humidity, I pretty much keep it at 100% because I completely seal the eggs in the hatching boxes in my incubators. Have I looked into boas? So yeah, I've been thinking about getting a boa just to kind of eat some more of my retired rats here in my collection. You know, between my two articulated pythons, they do pretty good. But it seems like my freezer is full of frozen rats that are like retired rats, and they still don't really seem to eat them all. So I'm thinking maybe doing a boa. I'm thinking about doing one of the super fire boas, the all white ones, which would be pretty cool. Maybe a female at first and then sit on that for a few years, and then maybe down the road I can actually try my hand at breeding a couple boas, which would be pretty cool. Let's see. I've seen so few dreamsicles at expos. Yeah, so it's you know, with the dreamsicles, I think it's kind of a niche market with the dreamsicles, because personally I like if you actually look at the dreamsicles compared to the albino pies, the dreamsicles are a lot more expensive. And a lot of people, you know, if you actually look at them side by side, you're like, all right, they look almost exactly the same as hatchlings, and you can buy an albino pied for the fraction of the price of a dreamsicle. And a lot of people, I think, end up buying the albino pied versus the dreamsicle. Although I think dreamsicles can be a really good investment though. How long do I pair up before females start to ovulate? Well, I've been pairing for like 4 months now. I haven't seen any ovulations. I'm thinking about probably 5 months of pairing until I'll see my first ovulation. Sometimes it'll actually happen at about 4 months, and I'll get my first eggs at about 5 months. So it really depends on the year. Let's see. Is 260 a fair price for female pewter pane hatchlings? So I have not been watching the prices on the pewter panes over the last few years, because it's something that I really haven't been interested in. So some of the things that I've been interested sometimes, you know, I watch the prices of like the pieds and the blue-eyed leucistics and the bamboos and stuff that are really catching my attention. But as far as looking at the entire market and as far as the fluctuation of the prices, it's kind of hard to stay on top. So really what you have to do is go over to Morphmarket and look at all the pewter panes as far as what's selling and what's available. And sometimes you can actually see, you know, some stuff is all over the board, and it really depends on how the hatchling looks. Sometimes if you get a really spectacular example of the combination, sometimes it can sell for quite a bit more. Let's see. I'm trying to start a mouse breeding project. I use 10-gallon aquarium tanks. So yeah, so I actually bred mice in 10-gallon aquariums. As a matter of fact, if you want to breed a mice in 10 gallons and increase the amount of mice that you can breed in a 10-gallon aquarium, what you can actually do is take newspaper and crumble up all your newspaper and completely fill your 10-gallon aquarium from top to bottom with crumpled up newspaper, except one little corner where you have the water and the food. And what that actually does is it turns it into like a 3-dimensional enclosure for your mice, and they can actually get these little pockets all over from the top to the bottom, and you can increase the amount of mice that you can have in there, which is kind of an interesting way to do it. I actually did that with some 30 gallons. I put an incredible amount of mice in a 30-gallon doing like the 3-dimensional mouse setup with the crumpled newspaper. And if you actually take all the newspaper out and have all the mice crawling around at the bottom, it's like way too many mice. But with the newspaper, you can fit a lot more in there, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. Pretty sure you don't have any het red exanthic. I don't have any het red exanthic. Would I get into the gargoyle? Gargoyle is pretty cool. I've seen some pretty neat gargoyle combinations, but it's not really a direction that that I'm going to go with my collection here. Probably won't do any het red exanthic. There's so many projects to get into. It's so hard to decide which one to get into. Have I ever thought about buying a leopard or Mojave? I might do leopard or Mojave if I bought it in with another gene that I'm really interested in. So for example, I'm actually looking at maybe doing like the static or the acid or the confusion. If I could actually buy like a leopard Mojave confusion or something like that, I might actually get into those genes. They're both really awesome genes. You can do some pretty cool stuff. I might actually pick them up. As I probably just wouldn't buy a leopard at this point just by itself. I definitely work it in with another combination or another gene that I'm really interested in. Is monsoon overhyped? So when it comes to monsoon, I don't think we've really seen the true potential of what the monsoon can actually do. So it's a brand new gene on the market. It's really visually dominant. From what I've seen, it can completely overwhelm certain genes, but I'd like to see some of the more potential with the monsoon to see if it's, you know, sometimes you can actually get genes like the champagne, which is really visually dominant, but we work it into certain genes and you can make some stuff that's unlike anything. It's pretty amazing. Let's see. I've seen ARS as the option to buy individual levels. Have you ever done that? Yes. So when it comes to individual levels on your ARS rack systems, like the ones behind me, what you'll actually find is if you buy one level, you're almost paying more for the shipping than you are for one level. So what I've actually done is I'll actually buy 2 or 3 levels at a time. That's how I bought most of my stuff here in my reptile room. I'll buy 2 or 3 levels and then slowly add on to them that way as far as building out my rack system. And I'm pretty much at a point where I can't really fit any more racks here in my reptile room. I'm pretty much wall to wall with racks. So as a matter of fact, I actually have this big ARS 1065, holds 65 hatchlings that is currently empty right now, which is kind of crazy. Hopefully I'll actually fill it up this year. 101 people in the chat. Really? Wow. Awesome. I actually have right here, it says 92. I got up to 101. Awesome. Yeah, yesterday we had 118, which is kind of crazy. 118. All right, so we're at 42 minutes, 17 seconds. So I'm going to go for an hour. So we have a little over 15 minutes left on the chat. Het sunset for 500 is not a bad idea. Yeah, so het sunsets for 500. The kind of the interesting thing is a lot of times on these genes like the sunset, you can actually pick up like a 50% het sunset for like, I actually saw one the other day for like $125. You could actually pick up multiple 50% het sunsets and probably get into it a lot cheaper, breeding those possible hets together, which would be probably the cheapest way to do it. But yeah, het sunset for 500, that's pretty awesome. The prices are coming down on some of these. The sunset's been holding its price really good over the long haul though. Let's see, starting my project with 3 hats just for the surprise. Awesome. Hey, Chris, thinking I should get a super asphalt to breed to a visual lavender, albino, ivory, firefly, enchi, and banana. Wow, that would be awesome. Yeah. So the super asphalts are really super expensive. They're still like, you know, thousands of dollars, I think, for a super asphalt. What I would actually do is I'd actually take a super asphalt. You could breed it to another super asphalt and get a whole clutch of super asphalts, which would be pretty awesome too. But yeah, definitely I would breed. So if you bred a super asphalt to an ivory, you would get a whole clutch of freeways with all, if you actually had all those other genes in the ivory, that would be pretty awesome. All right, let's see. Let's see. What will sugar do to a pie? That's a good question. I'm not sure if sugar would really have any of an influence of pie. So sugar is pretty much the same thing as calico, which brings up the white on the side of the snake. You might be able to see a little bit of the white coming up on the colored part of the pie, but I don't think it would have that much of an effect working sugar into a pie. Yeah, thanks for doing the live. And thanks, JL. I haven't done a live for, I think it's been 5 months since I did a live, which is kind of crazy. Let's see. How many locks do you see before you stop pairing? So I don't really go by the locks. So sometimes I've actually seen ball pythons, the lock again and again and again, and for months and months, and you still won't get any eggs. And what I actually go by is pretty much the time of the year. I actually just, slowly pair up my snakes, usually once or twice a month throughout the whole breeding season until I get to the end of the season, which is like 5 months down the road. If you keep pairing them up, you pretty much get hatchlings year round, which kind of throws everything into confusion because then you're always looking through all your females, wondering if you're going to get eggs at any time. I like to have specific breeding seasons, even though it might be a little bit less productive. So I just kind of breed up to a certain time and then just separate. I don't know what Bobby's doing. Come on. Oh. All right. Look at how big he is. He's a big bamboo getting ready to shed here. What are your thoughts on the berm balls? Hey, the berm balls is a cross between the Burmese python and the ball python. That is I didn't even think that was possible. That's kind of crazy. I've actually seen a few of them over on Morphmarket, and it'd kind of be interesting to see how big they get and what they look like as adults, and if they're pretty picky eaters as adults. Kind of the interesting thing about the hybrids between two different species is I was always wondering, all right, could you actually take something like the bamboo and work it into a berm ball and start like a whole new berm ball craze, working other genes into this hybrid snake, which would be kind of an interesting project if you could do that with any type of hybrid, and assuming it's not sterile, because sometimes the hybrids will actually be sterile where you can't breed them after you make the hybrid. So you kind of have to watch for that too. All right, let's see. Is it too late to start pairing for this year? Yeah, I would probably, if you want to be on par with pretty much everyone else in the ball python industry, I would probably, I'd say maybe you could pair for another month or two as far as a really late breeding, but you probably wouldn't want to breed too much more than, like 2 months from now, because otherwise you'll kind of throw off your breeding compared to everybody else. So I'd say you could probably still pair. As a matter of fact, I'm still pairing here probably for another month as kind of the late end of the pairing season for my ball pythons. But yeah, either that or I'd probably wait till like mid-October, somewhere around there, where most people actually start pairing up their snakes. East Coast Laughter, thank you so much for your channel. All right, thank you. Expo coming up next month. What combination would you suggest starting with under 500? Pastels, banana, desert ghost. So yeah, so desert ghost, keep in mind desert ghost is recessive, so it's a little bit harder to work desert ghost into other genes. I've actually bred my desert ghost through my collection, and I'll produce a lot of hets, and I'll sell a lot of desert ghost hets without actually seeing the visuals. So that's kind of the challenge of working with a recessive project. The bananas, you have to keep in mind the bananas are either male makers or female makers, so you get all banana males or females depending on if you have a male maker or female maker. You definitely want to know as far as what you have when you're getting into banana. And pastel is, you can't go wrong with pastel. It's pretty much the #1 gene in all of ball pythons. Everyone has pastels. So yeah, pastel is a good way to go to. All right, lots of questions. Wow. All right, let's see. We are 106 people watching. Wow, crazy. 48 minutes into it. We're going to go for another 12 minutes on the live stream. And then I'm going to record the video for tomorrow, which is going to be about blue-eyed leucistics, which would be pretty cool. I think you'll like that one. All right. How are my retics doing? They are doing great. So right now, so I've been pairing up my reticulated pythons. I don't think Lucy's gonna lay eggs this year. She is 4 years old, I think, going on 5 this year, and she still won't lay eggs, which is kind of crazy. She's been pounding the rats. I probably fed her, I'd say probably 8 or 9 rats here in the last probably week and a half. She's kind of going through that where she just came out of a shed and now she's going into like a really heavy feeding cycle, and then she pretty much stops eating and then just coils up and then goes back into the shed cycle. That's kind of her whole thing, and she'll just stop eating for like 2 weeks going through the shed cycle. And right now, Sunny, my purple reticulated python, he is in he's in a deep shed right now, off of food for a couple weeks. Let's see, looking for an ivory pastel female. Awesome. So if I was to actually get into the highway or the freeway projects, the first thing I would actually buy is probably an ivory pastel female, because you can actually grow that up and sit on it. And let me tell you, the ivory, if you breed it with a freeway, you'll actually make more freeways. And with a pastel, the pastel freeways are pretty awesome when you work pastel into it. Is there something you don't like about breeding ball pythons? That is a good question. I don't know. It's pretty, when I first started breeding ball pythons, I think the most frustrating thing was the feeding, because you go through your whole collection and half your snakes or most of your snakes won't actually eat every single week, and then you get used to kind of the random feeding. Sometimes they eat a lot and sometimes they won't. So I kind of got over that I really don't like about them. And pretty much the thing now, I'd say, is that you actually have all these plans and projects, and most of your females, probably half to a third of your females, won't lay eggs every single year. That's probably the most frustrating part about ball pythons. I've actually had some that have had as hatchlings, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they just refuse to lay eggs. And that's probably the thing that just drives me crazy, is when ball pythons won't lay eggs. I'd say, sometimes you can have really good years, and sometimes, like last year, I had a really bad year as far as the eggs. All right, let's see. Do you ever think we'll see any green or blue morsel ball pythons? Yes, we're all waiting for the bright green and the bright blue and the bright red. We've actually seen some red ones, but not really super bright red ones. But I definitely think we could definitely see some green or blue ball pythons, which would be pretty awesome. It seems like we're always coming out with new genes all the time. So wouldn't it be amazing if someone popped out like a bright fluorescent blue ball python? That would be kind of crazy. I know there's some that kind of are blue as far as, combinations or single G's. You can actually have like the hat red axanthic. Sometimes it's kind of blue as far as kind of axanthic looking, but as far as the blue, like if you actually see like the green tree pythons or some of those are like a super blue, that would be pretty amazing. All right, got one more to ask. If I pair up a Fire Mojave Yellow Belly crossed with the Fire Lesser Yellow Belly. Yeah, so actually, yeah, that's a good question. The Fire Mojave Yellow Belly. So that's, believe it or not, I'm actually going to use that as the question of the day for tomorrow's video. I actually saw you posted that under one of the other videos, so stay tuned for that. Odie, I'll definitely get to that question. That's an interesting question as far as that combination. Who takes care of your snakes when you're on vacation? So keep in mind, with ball pythons, you can actually go for probably a whole week without even messing with your ball pythons. The other thing you have to pretty much keep track of is your rats, because the rats take a lot of care as far as cleaning them and keeping on top of the bedding changes for your rats. So I'd say you could probably go maybe 3 days on your rats as far as the maximum amount of time. You really wouldn't want to let them go past 3 days, because it would get really stinky in your house if you let them go for a whole week. But as far as ball pythons, you really wouldn't need anyone unless you're going like on a month-long vacation. Then you'd probably have to have someone come in and do the spot cleaning and the water and stuff like that. My snake is egg bound. Should I try pushing the eggs out? No, I would definitely not try pushing the eggs out. So the kind of the interesting thing when a ball python is egg bound, what I would actually do is when they first lay eggs, sometimes they'll actually lay like 5 or 6 eggs, and if you see like 1 or 2 stuck in the belly of the ball python, I would probably give that snake at least 3 days before I do anything. Sometimes within the first 2 or 3 days, they'll push those eggs through. And the thing that I found as far as the trick on getting those eggs out, if they'll actually do it, sometimes you can feed a ball python, and when they eat the rodent, it seems like the rodent going through the belly of the snake will actually push out the eggs that are stuck in there, which is kind of a good trick as far as that. But sometimes I've actually seen some really severe procedures as far as people doing procedures to get the eggs out of the ball python. I've had some that were stuck in there for a couple weeks, and they finally passed them after a couple weeks. But if you have any in there, I'd say probably after a couple weeks, I'd probably get worried and bring it to a veterinarian. All right, let's see. We're down to 55 minutes. We're going to go 5 more minutes on the live stream. 95 people watching, which is kind of crazy. All right, let's see. Yeah, green and blue ball pythons will cost around 75,000. Yeah, so when a morph first comes out, yeah, you can look to the price is pretty much unlimited based on what people can ask for some of those new morphs coming out, which is pretty crazy. But keep in mind, if you buy a $75,000 ball python and you can reproduce it and sell the offspring for even half that, you can definitely make your money back in no time at all. So it's the high price, it's usually an investment. Do I have any pumpkin pieds? The pumpkin pied is the yellow belly pied. I don't have any pumpkin pieds here in my collection. I have a fire pied and just a regular pied. Then I have a coral glow that's 100% het pied that I'm breeding to my female, hoping to get some visual coral glow pieds this year, which would be pretty awesome. Sunshine Sherman. Hi, Chris. Big fan from Colorado. What is going on? Yes, I'm here in Colorado. Up here in the mountains at 9,000 feet. My driveway is still solid snow. We are still in pretty much snowpack here all winter long, which is kind of crazy. What do I think about the Krypton projects? So the Krypton, I actually did a video on the Cryptic and the Krypton. It's kind of interesting. Especially when you mix it with something like Lemon Blast or the Clown, you can make some really crazy combinations. Well, you couldn't really do the Clown because keep in mind, the Cryptic is allelic with Clown. So the Krypton is actually het for Cryptic and het for Clown. And then the Cryptic is a recessive gene. And it's kind of interesting when you work other genes into the Cryptics and the Kryptons, how it can really change the pattern and the color on a lot of your combination. I think it has a lot of potential with the Cryptics and the Kryptons. How is Bubbles doing? Bubbles is doing great. As a matter of fact, Bubbles just ate a rodent yesterday, so she's doing pretty good. I don't know if she's going to lay this year. She's my big female pinstripe that is super friendly, almost as friendly as Bobby here. That is, Bobby's trying to get away, crawling down my back here. All right, 57:38. We're down to the last 2 minutes. 83 people on the live. All right, let's see. Let's see. Can you do another candy toffee video? I have a toffee leopard. What should I breed with the toffee leopard? So, yeah. Usually I don't do repeat videos on other videos unless I can kind of spin it off where it's completely different. Sometimes, YouTube kind of frowns on repetitive content. I have a lot of people say, hey, can you do another clown video? I did a clown video a long time ago, and I'm sure it wasn't that good. Some of my videos from a couple years ago. All right, let's see. I'm breeding a lesser killer clown with a killer Krypton. So super interested to see what happens this season. So yeah, that should be interesting. So it's kind of interesting because so technically, if the Cryptic is allelic with Clown, that would mean that you couldn't have a clown cryptic because it's allelic. So it'll be interesting to see what you actually get with that combination. So technically your clowns couldn't be kryptons or cryptics as far as my understanding of the gene. So we're all trying to figure out the cryptics and the krypton. And I think as far as what we understand, that you couldn't have a cryptic clown. All right, so what do you incubate at and what is your hatch rate? So I actually incubate at 90 degrees Fahrenheit is what I set for the middle of my incubator. And my hatch rate is usually about pretty much close to 100%, which is all the good eggs. So, pretty much if I have a bad egg, it'll get really moldy and spoil. And I'll usually definitely know that right at the beginning. So as far as my bad eggs, I'd say probably, well, it really depends on, so my total success rate for all my eggs with about 100 eggs, I think I'm about 93% success. And that includes the bad eggs in the incubator and the slugs. And sometimes I'll actually have eggs that look good, but they'll actually be infertile with no veins or no embryos. So I have a really high hatch rate, pretty good success as far as what I get for my eggs. All right, let's see. What YouTube reptile channels do you watch and get info from? So yeah, so I kind of am all over the place. So what I'll normally do for my reptile channels, when I'm looking for like ideas for videos or, some of the new stuff coming out, what I'll actually do is I'll go over to YouTube, I'll type in ball pythons, and then you can actually go up in the filter and filter based on the videos that were posted in the last week. So I look at all the new stuff coming out from pretty much everyone. I've actually seen a lot of people with 0 subscribers and 0 views, and they post a ball python video. I'm like the first one there. I'm like, hey, good work, keep it up. And they're like, hey, how'd you find my channel? It's kind of interesting, but that's a good way to kind of see all the new ball python stuff coming out on YouTube. And there's not that many. I'd say if you actually look over here, there's probably maybe 30 to 40 videos that are ball python related every week out of all the channels. So it's pretty crazy how really limited the ball python is as far as the videos on YouTube, versus if you were to do like tech reviews or something like that, you'd probably find thousands and thousands of videos all right, so yeah, so let's see, so we're actually past, we're almost 2 minutes past when I was going to stop. Let's see, what reptile do you recommend beginners to start with? I would definitely start with a ball python. There's so much in ball pythons, let me tell you, it's addictive. And a lot of other snakes and other reptiles, they really don't have all the different morphs and all the different combinations. So it's almost like the ball python industry is its own little niche, and that could just pretty much go on forever and ever, which is the addicting part of ball pythons. You never really get tired of ball pythons because there's so much you can do as far as all the genes and all the combinations. All right, so Bobby is getting a little bit squirrely. We're going a couple minutes past the hour live stream, and I think I'm going to call it right here. So that is pretty much it. I know I didn't get to all the questions here. If you have any questions, you can actually post them afterwards underneath, and I'll try to get to some of them. There's a lot of questions that come in through my channel, and if they're really interesting questions, I might pick them for the question of the day on my future videos. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for all the comments. It looks like we still have 78 people on, which is pretty awesome, which is pretty much a record. It used to be like a maximum of about 62 or 65 people on live. Today we actually went way over. I think it was like we went over 100 at one point, which was pretty awesome. So that is pretty much it. Yeah, do more lives. I think I might do lives on the weekend. It seems like it works pretty good, doing Saturday and Sunday at 6 p.m. As a matter of fact, it's easier to do a live than it actually is to come up with the content and shoot the video and edit it and upload and all that. The live is almost like, it's almost like cheating, but it kind of, helps me to kind of connect with everyone and to answer a lot of questions that I don't normally have time for. as far as, you know, doing the questions on top of everything else. So that is pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thanks, and Bobby says bye.